Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My message this morning is titled Leo, but it's also an acronym, so it could be L-E-O. I know Cola guessed online what it might stand for, and she said, love each other, right? Which I thought was really good, but that's not it. Anybody else have any guesses? It's okay, you don't have to. But, I saw this meme, and there were some words on there that really sang to my soul, and then, the message came. So, but the three words that I pulled from the meme to form Leo was learning, effort, and opportunities. Opportunity. So, I'm going to try to explain, well, I think I will be able to explain, how this works on our spiritual journey and how we can incorporate these three words into our lives better, but also reminding ourselves just to think about the acronym Leo, because, you think about Leo being courageous, being that roar, being Leo the lion, like I showed that photo. So we're going to jump into this and kind of look at how this all relates to us. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever failed at something, or how many times you might have failed at something, but it didn't stop you, I hope. Or maybe it did. Maybe you did something and you failed at it and you said, oh, I'm never going to do that again. That right there is the beginning of this whole process. We have to look at spiritually at the reason why we would fail, or think that we are going to fail, or even assume that we're going to fail. And so we're going to start with the acronym FAIL, first attempt in learning. And this was what was on that meme, the first attempt in learning. And I thought, well, this is really important for our spiritual journey, because a lot of times we learn something or we hear something in church and think, yeah, that sparks us, we feel like we're on fire. And the minute we walk out the door or the next day, we have forgotten all about that spiritual truth or principle that we learned. And so in that moment, we are learning, but we're this first attempt at learning. We haven't really incorporated it into our lives. And it's important for us to think about what we talk about or what we are doing here at church, to be able to incorporate that into our lives, and then to think that we are learning and growing. And that's where we have to look at failing. We don't have to fail. We have to just know that, hey, I am on this learning journey. I am here to learn and grow. And so if we feel like we're failing, even on our spiritual path, it's time to take a breath and just turn back with Him. Sometimes we know that there's things that we do that we have to practice. I mean, I think it's great, the crochet group, that meets with Maria. I mean, I did that for a while with them, not at this church in Old Town, but it does take practice, and it takes perseverance, and you have to keep going. And if you would have seen my first prayer shawl, you would have realized that I really needed to practice, because I had holes over that sucker. But then I learned how to make those little flowers, and I sewed those on all the holes. But it worked, But I didn't tell myself I failed at this. I laughed about it, just like you're laughing now, and I figured out a solution. And that's what we have to do if we find ourselves slipping on our spiritual journey. We get mad and yell at somebody. We have to know, hey, that's okay. I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to do whatever I have to do, and I'm going to move forward, whatever it is. But we don't have to claim that we failed. We don't have to look at it like it's a bad thing. Because if we take failure and use this acronym, then we just know that we're just at the beginning of our learning stages in that phase of our spiritual journey, or whatever it is. Now, sometimes we'll think that we're not living from that spiritual truth, that we aren't implementing that in our lives, and we can get hung up on the way things should be instead of how we really are living, and that can build up guilt and shame and make us feel like we're a sinner or whatever. And we know all of that is just error thinking. That if we look at it like this is, hey, this is something I got to practice. And maybe this is showing up in my life because I need to practice it more, and we take that breath, then we can move forward. And I love this thing that the pattern that our minds do in this human experience when we get like that, when we are getting hung up on not being able to live from the truths that we learn. You know, like I said, the minute we walk out the door, something happens and we find ourselves not even thinking about what we had heard today or whatever. Well, Fillmore calls this opposition in consciousness. And this was a cool quote that I never had seen before, but the effort of old states of mind to continue exercising dominion, which dominion is the power you have, in the face of new ideas becoming active in the mind. So we are opposing in our consciousness any kind of spiritual growth. We are opposing the truth that we find. Because the minute we walk out the door and say something negative or get mad or whatever, or feel sad or feel guilty or feel shameful, then what we're doing is blocking anything that we've learned. And we are the ones that control our minds. So we have to be able to not get in that oppositional state of consciousness. We have to tell ourselves, I have power to change my thinking and to absorb this and to live from the truths that I want to live from the kind of being I want to be. And when we do that, it changes everything. Because we have to be open to these gifts from Spirit. We have to be able to embrace what we know to be true. And if we do that, it makes everything more simple in our lives. We feel better. But sometimes we just get too busy and we start thinking about things, and yet the greater things that can happen for us are right there for us. And we don't have to feel like we're walking into the void where we're feeling empty and lost and confused. We can sit there and take a breath and go, wait a minute, you know, I'm just learning. I'm just learning, so it's okay. I have to be able to say to myself, if I feel blocked or I feel like I'm not living from truth, then I can move through this. I know this. So, it's a shift in awareness. And we move from being stagnant to being prosperous, just like the daily word said today. But let's look at our consciousness. It is very important to understand the importance of our consciousness in spiritual growth. Divine ideas must be incorporated into our consciousness before they can mean anything to us. An intellectual concept does not suffice. Okay, just like I said, we are the ones who block any of the truth from happening in our lives. We're the ones that walk out the door and switch what we've just learned, what we just want to express. You know, when you're on fire about some concept or you've heard something that sang to your soul, and then the next thing you know, it's out the window. That feeling, though, that you had when you embraced it, you can keep it there if you tell your mind, hey, I want this in the forefront of my consciousness. I want to be able to pull this up. I want to be able to live from this. And it changes everything. We don't have to drop back down. And the cool part is an intellectual concept does not suffice. So if you're taking it in, but in your small end mind, you're going, okay, I get this and everything, and this is great, and then you walk out the door and do something else, then you are the one that are not really letting it go in. All you're doing is saying, I've learned this, but I'm not practicing that. That's what I love about Unity, is they call it practical Christianity, because we are here to practice these principles we're living. And the practical edge of it is to bring it forth into your everyday living. And so, you know, that's how we grow. But an intellectual concept does not suffice. That means if you read something or do something, like me, lately I've been on this thing with memes, I don't know, or the reels or whatever. When you see one of those and stuff, if there's something there singing to your soul a little bit or tugging at you a little bit, take it deeper. Let it find out what it means for you. I mean, it could be a whole spiritual message in just that little thing. You know, my grandmother, she lived to be 102, and she loved cartoons. And so she lived across the street from the police station and fire department, and they got newspapers every day. And so they would always bring them over to her, and she just wanted the funnies. And she would cut out different cartoons that just, you know, she just loved. And she lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My parents lived in Wichita, Kansas. So she would mail them to my dad all the time. And my dad had a whole, like, when he made his transition, he had a whole, like, box full of these cartoons my grandmother had said. But when she made her transition, you know, she had stacks of them everywhere, all over her house. My sister said, if I have to read one more cartoon, and I said, no, this is a good thing, because she's incorporating this into her life. She's living from those truths. You know, she's not just stacking up a bunch of newspaper and saying, oh yeah, yeah. No, she was embracing them, and that's what we have to do with our spiritual journey. We have to embrace it and live from that. I mean, heck, maybe that's why she lived to 102, because she had found that humor in her life. But all we have to do is change our mindset in this, you know, whole thing. Okay, so the rest of the quote is, to be satisfied with an intellectual understanding leaves us subject to sin, sickness, poverty, and death. To assure continuity of spirit, soul, and body as a whole, we must ever seek to incorporate divine ideas into our minds. So, you know, we've all seen people that'll go to church every Sunday, that'll sit there and, you know, read their Bible, do their Bible study, whatever. But then the rest of their life is not what you would say a Christian person or someone who is spiritual or whatever. It's because all they're doing is doing the intellectual bit. They're not incorporating it into their lives. They are not trying to make those divine ideas that are coming through a part of themselves, which they are. Believe it or not, they are, whether you embrace it or ignore it. They are part of your beingness. But we have to be conscious of incorporating them into our lives, because it just doesn't work. And, you know, we can get gung-ho, and then we just, you know, drop off and we miss the mark. Like Fillmore said, we miss the mark. We miss the idea that this is going to be an everyday living thing. Digesting information, meaning taking it in deeper and synthesizing what we need to keep and spiritually nurture, is important as learning about it. It's as important as learning about it. So we can learn things. We can be in that idea that we are, you know, we are here to learn. But if we are not really incorporating it and synthesizing it, like I said, you see that meme where somebody says something and you're feeling like, hey, what did they just say? And then you're thinking about it. That means you need to take it to prayer, or you need to let that synthesize through you and find that deeper meaning. I'm rereading that Dynamics of the Dynamic Law of Healing, Catherine Ponder's book. And it's funny because, you know, Reverend Moore and I have quite a collection of books from seminary and LUT and SEE, all that stuff. But you find yourself finding a deeper thought, or maybe you've read that years ago, 20 years ago or whatever, but then all of a sudden you catch yourself rereading it and going, wow, that is really a good point. And that's when those points come up, is when we have to pay attention and when we have to take it deeper for ourselves in order to get the bigger benefit. You know, we can get on that merry-go-round, and what does that happen? Nothing. We're just going to keep chasing. And that's what we do when we're just reading the book, or when we're just, you know, sitting here listening to somebody and not taking it out to the streets. But the minute we start living from it, then it's a whole different thing, isn't it? Then we get to enjoy the merry-go-round and not let it be just something that takes us round and round. But the effort that we put forth to implement the truth is the difference that it's going to make in our lives. Believe that, please. And so what does this look like? Believe it or not, we can start with the 5 basic unity principles, and I'm just going to hit on 1, 3, and 5. Well, here we go. Oh, this was in here. I skipped that whole part. And we need this, because this is about effort. L is learning. This might make us feel as if we are a failure or what we want to give up, and that is the end, when we don't incorporate that. And it's not the end, because here's the acronym for END. Effort never dies. I love that. So when we say something like, oh, I'm done, that's the end. No, effort never dies. The minute we put our effort into something, it's not going to die. It's going to continue. Our energy carries on, with or without us, believe it or not. That's the way the universe works. That's the way all our energy works. We can send out good energy, or we can send out negative energy. And the effort that we put forth with speaking words or having thoughts is what's going out there. So whatever effort we are putting towards our lives makes a huge difference. We can learn things over and over again, and we put effort toward those things we learn, then we are moving forward. But we also have to realize, if we're putting forth negative effort, guess what? That's what we're going to experience, isn't it? That's what's going to be out there. But we have to realize that we can always just take that breath and allow our spiritual goals to come forth. And here's one more if we realize that we cannot fail because we are learning and make an effort to continue to grow, we can reach a higher state of consciousness that will make our moment-to-moment living more fulfilled. Learning, effort, lifting our consciousness. Isn't that what we're here to do?
Yes.
To grow, to be that higher consciousness. And so takes us to the 5 basic unity principles, 1, 3, and 5. Number 1, there is only one presence and one power active in my life in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. We say this every Sunday as our statement of being, but it's also incorporated into the 1st basic unity principles, and it's worded different ways depending on which version you read, but it's still that same idea that God's number 1, right? That's what we're saying. God is number 1, and God is active in my life. And if we live from that principle, then we know we can't ever fail. We know that we can learn and grow. We know that we can put forth the effort to allow God to be that one presence and power in my life. But we claim this every Sunday, but how many people say it any other time during the week? You know what I mean? Because it's a great little ditty to recenter yourself and know that God is in the midst of whatever's going on in your life. And when we say these things on Sundays, we have to realize that they are tools for us to bring forth at any moment of our day, of any time that we are struggling. And I love this because it's a powerhouse. It's a powerhouse of words that just bring you back to who you are as a spiritual being. Number 3 is we are co-creators with God, creating reality through thoughts held in mind. We take in the information on the human level, but all of the stuff that we really want to grow and learn from comes from divine mind, comes through us, and is always coming through us. So we have to be able to co-create, and I love that tangled up mess, because sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? Feels like, okay, God, you know, what are you telling me? What do you want me to do? But I'm sitting here going, I want to do this. And so it feels like kind of a tangled or maybe a conflict even. Somebody says something and you're not agreeing with it, or something happens, out there in the world and you don't agree with it. It's okay. We can take a breath and co-create with God and allow our minds to untangle by just going to divine ideas. Allowing that to happen. I saw this thing this week. If you want to center I'm sure it's probably a Buddhist thing or a Hindu thing or something, but you put your fingers together like this, and you'll see a lot of people doing that online now. But if you do that, it's a way for your body, maybe yoga. I don't remember what it is, but anyway, it centers your mind and your spirit together to where you are. Balance, where you find yourself more relaxed and more, kind of like doing a stretch or like recentering. But they've proven scientifically that it really does work. So we can have these little things that realign us in mind, body, and spirit, and we can do these little things to help us feel better. Everybody do that for a minute, because I'll tell you what, you just do it for a minute. Just a few seconds. And you'll feel it. You'll feel the energy. It's kind of like a grounding thing. And then open your arms. Doesn't that feel good? Anyway, it's kind of like making the energy ball. I always love to feel energy. Okay, and then the last one is the 5th principle. Through thoughts, words, and actions, we live the truth we know. So whatever we take with us each week, whatever is singing to our soul, then we take that in, and we have to put that into our thoughts, words, and actions. That's why we can't walk out the door and start cussing at the car that went zooming by you, whatever. You know, we have to take that breath. And we put effort towards doing this. If we start taking these little seeds that we have and put effort towards it, it makes a huge difference in our lives. And it doesn't have to be a lot of effort. You know, a lot of people don't want to do gardens because they take a lot of effort. But you can plant a seed and just water it and then let the rain do the rest, and something will come up, won't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's what we have to do with our own thoughts and our own actions and our own words. And can we put forth some effort in growing spiritually? I hope so.
Yes.
Huh? Can we hear a yes?
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. Because that gives us a spiritual opportunity, which is the O for Leo, isn't it? When we fail or we have hit a dead end or we find ourselves feeling guilty, shameful, or sad, we can exclaim no. And that is an acronym for, no is an acronym for next opportunity. Yeah. So you can tell yourself, hey, no. And you think that's like no, you know, like your parents would say to you. No. No, it's not like that at all. What you're doing is opening up that unlimited opportunity that God gives us, abundantly gives us, that open opportunity to grow or to be more of who we want to be, lifting ourselves up in consciousness. And I wrote a little ditty down here. I want to see. Our next opportunity, can come to us in the very next breath. The opportunities flow faster than we can even absorb them, believe it or not. All we have to do is be open to that. We have to just allow them to come through us. And there's all kinds of ways that we can do that. You know, we can definitely look at these different opportunities as ways for us to be more prosperous in the human sense and in the spiritual sense. But we can tithe more money. We can donate needed items for the church if we want to. And if none of those things really work for you, guess what? There's all kinds of other things you can do. You know, there's, I'm missing a page. Here we go. There you go. Anyway, you can give of your time and your talents. And just like Clyde's going to teach his class, I mean, that's a new opportunity for the church. The girls getting together to do crochet. We have one Girl Scout troop that meets here once a month. We're getting another Girl Scout troop that's going to start meeting starting this Thursday. So we're excited about having these opportunities. We've also talked to the school about maybe doing a support group for grandparents raising grandchildren, because I guess there's a plethora of them out there. We thought we were the only ones. No, just kidding. We weren't the only ones. But, you know, there's ways to give of yourself and to put an effort forth to create a better community for all of us.
That's true.
So there was a clip that I saw, a video, and that's the next thing. And that's the URL. But believe it or not, I tried every which way but loose to make that come up. So Nadine's daughter even helped me, but it still didn't work. So we're not going to be able to watch the video, but it was from Tony Robbins. So this morning I just wrote down a little summary about it. But I want to do a little experiment, and he did this on this little clip. I want you to look around the room and look for anything red. Okay, just look around the room. Look for anything that you see that's red. You don't have to say it out loud right now. Just look around the room. Look for red. Are you seeing red? Maria's holding up the bulls. Okay. So you're looking for something red. Okay, now close your eyes. Open your eyes and tell me what you saw that was brown.
Everywhere.
Oh, brown, yeah, brown, see?
My clothes.
But when I told you to look for red, you had red in your mind, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you were probably looking at some things that you said, well, I'm going to claim that's red, but it's not really red, right? You might have looked at, I don't know.
Your chair's up there like the burgundy.
Yeah, so you might have said that was red. So we see things and we do things and we adjust our thinking and everything depending on how we want to see our reality, see how we want to win in a situation.
Absolutely.
So when I said look for red, you guys were coming up with all these ideas that could fit that bill. But the minute I changed it to brown, it threw you off maybe a little bit, or made you think, well, why did she change it to brown? And Tony Robbins says that whatever we focus our belief on is what we're going to focus our attention on. And if our beliefs are strong enough and we really believe in those, then we're not going to get veered off if somebody says, well, find something brown. We're going to still focus in on the red that we started with, I'm using colors, but whatever the belief is that we focus on, whatever the belief is that we believe in. So if we have beliefs in our past, and this is my interpretation of this video, if we have beliefs in our past that have distorted our true spirituality, then we have to erase those from our small end mind so that we can allow our consciousness to lift up and not be distracted from truth, from capital T truth. We have to process that and seize that opportunity, that open opportunity that awaits us. And we can do that if we don't get distracted by something else, by somebody else saying brown when we're focusing in on red, okay? And I thought that was really cool. And so he also says, he said this in the video, which I just said, once you find a belief, you look for ways to support that belief. So what are some of the ways we can support what we believe? It's just like I said, we can find ways to help support each other. We can come together. We can invite other people in. We can enjoy our potluck today. We can find ways to donate stuff to the church or time to the church, to do different things. Come for the Christmas decorating. All of those kind of things are fun and exciting, and it's great. And then he also said, you can find ways to support yourself whether you think it's true or not because you want it to be right. So remember that. If you say, oh, I don't have time for that, or, no, I don't want to stay. I'm just going to go home and take my nap. Whatever it is, then you are making it right in your own mind. You're making it red, or you're making it brown when it's really red, or whichever way I'm supposed to say that. But anyway, you bring forth what it is you decide in your own self. So we have to go beyond that. So do we manipulate our story to serve us, or are we making our story about truth? Because our story is our story, right? I always say that. If somebody comes to you with a story, it's their story. It's not your story. Their story is their story, your story is your story, and whoever's story it is the person who gets to tell that story, and they get to say it however they want to say it. So are we manipulating our own story to make it better or to make us right, or are we really living from truth and bringing it forth the way we need to bring it? And when we are in that place, this is when we can claim our good, where we can bring forth that good, where we can live from that good. And it depends on what we focus on, because whatever we're focusing on, guess what? That's what we're going to get. So if we say, oh, things are horrible, then things are going to be horrible, aren't they? Yeah. But if we say things are great, then things can be great. Yes. So as we focus together, we can be learning, always putting forth effort, and know there are infinite opportunities lifting our consciousness to new heights. Thank you for being here today.